Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 75 of Underexposed, our weekly macro show hitting all the biggest topics and trends impacting crypto and Web3. 25 episodes. How about that? Today is Tuesday, June 9th. Crypto majors crashed and then rebounded, and now they are bleeding out again ahead of this week's SpaceX IPO and summertime looming. Is the local top going to be in this week? And what does that mean for crypto? We're going to talk about it on today's show. I'm your host, Tyler D. I've got my co-hosts in the house. First up, Dees, rocking the Puppets hat. Jim, how you doing?
Yeah, it's a red day. We're going to zero, world peace. Had to throw the Puppets hat on. Doing well. Glad to be here.
We need that. We need those vibes right now on a day like today. Peter's back, folks. Love having him back in the house. Peter, Jim, how are you doing?
Jim, great to be with you guys. This week is SpaceX week. It's all everyone's talking about, so excited to dive into that.
How have you been enjoying these NBA finals? And part two, who are you rooting for here?
I need the Spurs, so it's been kind of a roller coaster. Last night was excellent. I think the Spurs continue to make some good adjustments. Broadly, I think they need to play more Dylan Harper. He played 32 minutes last night. I think he should be playing like 36, 37, maybe even a bit more. That would be the big thing I want to see. But yeah, it's a great series. This Knicks team's unbelievable. Crazy their first loss, and after winning 13 in a row, comes at Madison Square Garden. I mean, just epic how many people were there. But yeah, it's great having the finals. The whole playoffs have been pretty solid, especially the Western Conference in this series.
It's been a good one. It feels like the Spurs are the better team on paper, but the Knicks just had this intangible about them, or they definitely did games 1 and game 2. But perhaps the vibes shifted in game 3. At least we get a longer series to sweat now.
Yeah, so for sure.
Is off the table. And the World Cup starting this week, so it is a big month for sports here. I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but we're going to talk about more than just sports on today's show. So what are we talking about? We're talking macro, SpaceX IPO. It is SpaceX week. We got to talk about that trade. What does it mean for markets? Is the broader AI trade overheated right now? We also have Mythos coming perhaps as soon as today, maybe within hours. What the hell does that mean? Crypto's bull and bear case for the summer, this Zeke exploit, and what it means for that token going forward, what we're trading, and a whole lot more. So we got a lot to dig into on today's show. A couple of housekeeping items. We are live streaming on Kick and X. As always, go follow our channel. Feel free to retweet the shows, get more folks in the stream with us. Yeet giveaways. We're not doing the Yeet giveaways at the end of the show anymore, but we are still doing monthly giveaways. So for those who are running volume through the Morning Minute affiliate code, we are still doing $2,000 in giveaways distributed across the top members on that leaderboard. So feel free to continue playing over there on Yeet. Shout out to them as our partner. And then before we get started, as always, quick disclosure, the opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not reflect the views or opinions of any organizations they are associated with. We are here to share insights, provoke thought, and maybe even start some debate, but this is not, I repeat, not financial advice. While we talk about markets, investments, and trends, remember your financial decisions should be made with the help of your own research or with advice from a licensed professional. All right, well, let's get right into it. Peter, I think let's just jump right in to SpaceX IPO. Are you a buyer? Is there a price you become a buyer? How are you feeling about this overall?
I don't really have a strong opinion on SpaceX itself. I think the more important thing to discuss is just the impact it's having on the broader market. And I think a lot of what's happening currently was, kind of propping up the market to basically get this exit liquidity. And if you think about who's going to cash in on this, I mean, Elon is like the greatest marketer, obviously has been an incredible inventor and done a lot for society, but let's be real. He's an unbelievable marketer who always sells the dream, and he always gets exit liquidity for himself and investors. So you have all these people that are about to, get billions of dollars. And on top of that, you have another layer of people that are getting very wealthy here. Guys kind of on Wall Street that are in the secondary markets or secondary brokers. They're making a ton of fees, a ton of carry. There's so much kind of wealth going towards this. And of course, it has to come from somewhere. The index funds will definitely pile in, which will be meaningful. With the new fast entry rule, SpaceX will be bought faster into the queues than some other indexes. It still has a longer time for the S&P 500, but passive flows there are gargantuan. So that will help in terms of where the money's coming from. But there's so many people that are getting just crazy amounts of life-changing money. And I think, we've kind of had this volatile market with a lot of euphoria. And coming into the year, I always thought the SpaceX might be the top. And I know that's like a classic narrative, but I definitely am very cautious here because to me, there's definitely some asymmetry to the downside. And generally, I want to be long stocks. I think timing the market's really hard, but this feels, bring it back to crypto, very similar to Coinbase's IPO and that being the top of crypto as well. And that was like an obvious call, and that was something that I thought was very likely, or not very likely, but it was definitely kind of my base case, and it's hard to act on. So I'm getting similar vibes here. The markets have been absolutely nuts. It's all levered AI trade, and this is just a ton of exit liquidity. And more importantly, too, we also have OpenAI and Anthropic coming live, which, collectively that's like $5-6 trillion. That's a lot of capital. So that's the way I'm thinking about it, is that there's a lot of euphoria. A certain segment of like Wall Street / these sales guys who had access to these privates are making a ton of money. And then, of course, early investors, employees. I mean, it's just crazy wealth creation for these people. So
yeah, 4,000 millionaires, I think, will be made. And then there's like 400 deca millionaires made on the SpaceX IPO, which is, it feels staggering. We pulled this chart up last week, but I'd like to go over this with you a bit, Peter. So I think the only counter to it being a top now is like, yes, is it a top event, but does the top event like come later because of it's lower float, but then there's huge unlocks coming. So this is like the unlock schedule across SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic. And basically, SpaceX comes out, and then their first big unlocks come in a couple months, and then you've got Anthropic and OpenAI coming out on top of that, and that's when you really start getting into the trillions and trillions later this year, and then second half of next year. So when I see this, like I can see like this combined with SpaceX being like the low float, high FDV style launch. Like I could see it squeezing up, and then like the music continuing for a bit, but they're definitely being a come to Jesus moment. Some point.
That's definitely a viable case. I do see that, and I think initially we could see a pop, but you're seeing like the volatility recently, especially last Friday, and then kind of into today as well. People are skittish and definitely thinking about this. So yeah, to me, it's just a very if you're allocating capital, you really need to think about like your strategy. Are you someone who trades? Are you someone who tries to de-risk at certain times? Or if you're just, buy and hold and you've really allocated your capital well, or you're just like, I'm not touching this, then it's simple. And that really does show the value of, just buy and hold long-term. It's really hard to beat that. But for a lot of people on the show, you manage crypto, you're trading your markets, you're buying houses, you're whatever, like you're trying to figure out how to allocate your capital. And I do think that there's merit at times to like protect, your purchasing power. And I definitely see some asymmetry to the downside, and broadly I'm very optimistic long-term, but yeah. What you mentioned makes sense, but like at some point, I don't know. And we'll see. I think a big question that, there's all these other cross currents. We haven't talked about interest rates. We haven't talked about the war in Iran. And then you have some other factors at play that I think really could impact the market. But broadly, this is going to be the story for the next, this week, and then we'll see how it performs. I mean, I think people will be talking about SpaceX for the next couple of weeks for sure.
I think so. You're not alone with your concerns. Bank of America even coming out this week and saying a lot of red flags out there. Their bear market indicators are triggering, or some bear flags are tripping. And they say, yeah, if you're in some profits, maybe consider taking those. And I think just like the other, you kind of mentioned like some of the index funds changing the rules for this. It just feels like there's some strange things happening around like giving extra access to this IPO that's not typically there. Like, why is that happening? And then like now Nate Gerasi is tweeting about this just before the show. ProShares is launching a 2x levered SpaceX ETF on the same day as the IPO. Like just what we need. Levered IPO, levered SpaceX into the most volatile launch.
You can do that on.
You didn't have an opportunity to invest before $1 trillion, Tyler. So you got to make up for that lack of opportunity with leverage.
Yeah. I mean, why invest 5K when it can be 10K?
One interesting note that I meant to kind of lead with, I think is most important, is a bunch of for like this show and just kind of where we sit in the ecosystem. A bunch of like my finance bros that are, in the secondary market selling, work at hedge funds, like sophisticated investors that are allocating a lot of capital. They're all looking at Hyperliquid and trade XYZ and just watching the price. And I think some people are definitely hedging there quite a bit. So that's hype and lighter are definitely having their moment. Like these real world assets are really cool. People that have never, talked to me about crypto are asking about SpaceX on Hyperliquid.
It has 106 million in open interest, and it's down 28% from where it launched. So you could have had a nice hedge as soon as it opened too.
Yeah, this was a messy one. And I was curious, was it just because of like the price discrepancies and how this one came out? Because then Elon said, okay, well, we're eventually going to go live at $135 a share. But like, I don't think the true secondary demand for this has dropped from like by 30, 40%. And maybe I've had the wrong read on this. But this is a little strange to me seeing this play out, but perhaps it is a sign of things to come on IPO day. You mentioned Hyperliquid, your TradFi buddies into it, and then Citrini wrote their bull case for Hyperliquid just yesterday. The same firm that caused the AI doomers sell-off from back in February now is bullish on hype. Didn't quite cause a move in the market, at least on a short time frame, but just another feather in the cap. What was interesting to me is like the thesis is fairly simple. They basically just point to buyback to high revenue and their buyback mechanism as a differentiator. And maybe it's just because we're so close to it. And then like these, you've been in the trade forever. It just felt like, yeah, we all know this, but perhaps it's telling a different audience who isn't aware. But
it's interesting too, just how long common knowledge takes to disseminate throughout different just groups of people. Like for us, this has been common knowledge for a while, but like Peter said, his friends who don't give a shit about crypto, or maybe now just with HIP3 and pre-IPO stuff starting to care. So like we think it's common knowledge. We talk about it every week for the last like 3 years, but a lot of other people still have to learn it. So sometimes being like in the day-to-day thick of it is bad because we get, too caught up in what we think everybody else knows.
I think that makes sense. I think part of Mando's hype bull case was that a lot of TradFi was just getting into the trade at 60. And they're not going to be looking to take profits till much higher. So like for him, like that's how you get like a new buyer base that takes the trade up to 100.
Yeah, but everyone's cost basis is 0, and they're watching their free $100 or $1 million turn into a free $1 million or 10 million or 50 million. Then it's a lot harder to make headway.
And it remains one of the more investable crypto tokens out there. I think that is true. I mean, you went there with Lit, so let's just go there. I'll give the lightards their time.
We're back
in the sun. It was when I woke up this morning, at one point, it was like the only green coin on the board. It has since given a little bit back. But it's been one of the best trades of the last few weeks for sure. It's my question is Lit legit?
Of course.
Yeah,
you're not like targeted yet, Tyler? Come on.
We like the product. That's why we own the token.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, this is real world assets, and kind of what this has opened up is a huge value creation. And I think you want to be aligned with things that are creating a ton of value. And obviously, Hype's the big winner, and they're going to continue to have network effects. They've done an amazing job, but Lighter has a great product, and I think it's pretty clear they've solidified as like the number 2. There's still competition below them, but they've executed really well, and they're doing a great job on RWAs. And I think, you want exposure to what both Hype and Lighter are doing. You want to own that overall index, and I think those are the only 2 to own. But yeah,
so
it's been great.
It as like a broader like perps bucket trade.
Yeah.
And Lit is the clear number 2.
That's my view right now. And obviously you have to be open-minded to changing, but I think owning both makes sense. You can stake both. You could do delta neutral strategies with both. There's a variety of ways in which you can express kind of a long bias towards these platforms. But to me, they're the clear winners. And then the rest of crypto, I mean, we'll talk more about, but the rest of crypto seems like for sure in the short term, it's going to be in trouble just because it's not even close to the sexiest thing in the room. I mean, beforehand, we were the shiny object, the sexy topic, at cocktail parties. No one's talking about crypto right now. They're talking about AI and the rich dude they know from SpaceX and where's the next deal, robotics, whatever it is. So to me, it's really, really tough to, I don't know. We'll see. I just think crypto kind of has asymmetry to the downside too. And that's something for sure, especially if we could get quantum fixed. We'll see how Saylor plays out. There could be some great buys in the future. So that's another reason to potentially raise cash.
Yeah, so let's go there. You kind of just went there. I wanted to talk about kind of your outlook for crypto this summer. Sounds like you're leaning bearish just because of like opportunity cost, hotter alternative sectors. Is that your view? And curious if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thinking, everyone's in a different situation, but just preservation of capital and purchasing power is, kind of how I'm viewing things. And it's hard because there is a lot of inflation. But yeah, I think crypto is one of the harder things to really get excited about, other than that it's gone down a lot recently. And trying to find a bottom here. But to me, stocks are way sexier. The way AI is trading, there's more asymmetry both directions probably in the short term, especially with these IPOs. And yeah, crypto has some real headwinds with Bitcoin and the quantum risk, in addition to all the attention being paid to Saylor, who I think there's so many just like side effects of Saylor being in the market. And obviously there's some positive ones, but financial engineering generally has some blow up in some regard at some point in time. And I think people are certainly nervous about that. It's hard to figure out exactly what his liquidation price is. There's a lot of different factors with the debt, but I think he certainly starts to feel some pain in the $30,000 range. And then we'll see how things play out and like how they handle stretch and all these other assets. But I think that's an overhang on the market too. What's your guys' view on strategy?
Yeah, Diesel, I'll let you weigh in.
I go back and forth. I feel like this weekend there was, I can't tell just how sensitive the algorithm is versus how much I think other people actually think it. But I kept getting fed the whole, the only way Bitcoin price doesn't go to zero here is if Saylor comes out and said he sold this week type stuff. So it's like, oh, are there people finally starting to care? Or did I just like literally one tweet and the entire algorithm tweaks to show me stuff along that lines, which I think that's just been an overall problem since Elon's had Twitter, where I got so accustomed to how I process information with the old algorithm that the new one just kind of fries my brain on trying to model what I think consensus is. 'Cause I think like consensus in sharper chats for a while has been like this Saylor thing is kind of like a ticking time bomb, but we don't really know when it's going to happen and whatever. But I don't know what common knowledge consensus is. I feel like they're starting to be more aware of it. And it just adds to like the opportunity cost of owning Bitcoin versus anything else that is sexier.
I still don't think he's going to blow up.
I still don't understand like why selling 32 to inoculate the market and then buying back the week later. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that move particularly was one, kind of like a little bit of the rip the Band-Aid off as well, just to show that yes, he can in fact do it, and doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to go to zero, though it has had coincidentally some negative market action tied to the sell. But I think the bigger thing is, like, if you think that he's going to implode, like, part of that is MicroStrategy is going to zero. And I think MicroStrategy stockholders are fine being diluted. So, like, he raised $200 million last week. He bought Bitcoin with half of it, and then he put $100 million in his cash pile. His cash pile is back up to $1 billion. His annual debt's at like 1.7 billion right now. So he's not quite there, but like seeing that, like he's gonna get the cash for this year. And of course, he's gonna have to keep doing this. But I'm actually not concerned that he's not gonna meet his cash requirements. And you still need Bitcoin to turn around at some point. And if it goes to 30K, that's gonna be rough. For sure, it's gonna be rough for a lot of folks. But
it's gonna be rough when Hyperliquid
on the table. I'm not a MicroStrategy stock owner, but I think
I've owned Stretch and stuff and looked at his balance sheet a lot and like asked AI a bunch about like where he starts to feel stressed, because it's a really nuanced and complicated question, and it's a great use case for Gemini or OpenAI or Claude or whatever you want to do to just like map it out, because the debt at times has been really, really attractive, and he's certainly in a good financial position in the short term. It's more just, how will this play out over the next 5 years is a big part of it to me. And there are scenarios where he starts to feel pressure, and it's such a reflexive asset, and he amplifies the kind of how the reflexive nature of crypto, and specifically Bitcoin here. So just to me, I don't know. I could see scenarios where Bitcoin does really well, but we've had like kind of a perfect setup. We have hot inflation, we have geopolitics issues, and like it's still just going down. I mean, the trend is not good, and you have the quantum overhang. In one of our chats, I put how beautiful would it be if like Bitcoin went to like 10K or something like that. We find the quantum fork, Saylor gets liquidated, and then it just rips to like millions of dollars and overtakes gold as an asset class. I could see that parlay happening like 1% of the time. So I don't know, but from an allocation standpoint, I would rather own the Qs than Bitcoin. I think
one liquidation cascade away and then up only.
It could be really reflexive to the downside though. Like the Saylor thing doesn't have a lot of momentum behind it, and it's people are talking about it, but he is in a pretty good financial position. If it goes down and then he's not in a good financial position, that's where I think like the FUD could get much stronger, and then it could be more reflexive.
Oh, the more the price goes down, the stronger the FUD gets. Like 100%.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Mythos? So rate your concern levels for Mythos and what it means for crypto here.
I think a lot of people have had Mythos before too. I don't know.
It came out with Project Glasswing, right? So some folks got early access.
Yeah, and there's a lot of sophisticated people that think for sure Lazarus has access to it, which could explain some of the hacks we've seen in crypto. And that's another just headwind, I think, for crypto in general, is it's just like doing things on chain, you're just a little bit more nervous. At least I am. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think that's another somewhat of a headwind. Just another tail risk to deal with. But I'm excited for it, and I'm excited just about the continued progress with AI. Be curious to hear your guys' perspective on just how much you're using it and how much value you think it's going to create. I didn't say it earlier, but I was kind of going there. I think a big part of where the market will go is if we start seeing really good return on investment from AI. Right now, it's mostly just the ARR numbers for Anthropic and the revenue and people using it on OpenAI, and then all the CapEx. That's what's driving the market forward. It's not actual efficiency being gained from AI. So once we start to see more data there, which we need things like Mythos to be really amazing, then that could be why we just up only in the markets for a while, because we could have the huge productivity boom. But I don't know, what's your guys' view? How much are you using it? Do you feel like it's materially helped you more in the last month? Do you think AI is going to create more value than the internet?
I don't think it's going to create more value than the internet. Or I feel like maybe that's a cop out because the internet is technically like what is enabled AI. So without the internet, like AI wouldn't be nearly as valuable. But I do feel like it would be hard to go without it now. Like it's such a part of my life that I don't know, especially with like the baby and just like figuring stuff out. Like the first thing I do is just talk to Claude. And I know some people are, they don't do the like context sharing or like letting it have memory. But I think really enjoyed the persistent memory part of it too, which I didn't even think I would. So I don't know if I've noticed that big of a difference in the last month because I think most of the time I'm not pushing it to its full capabilities anyway. But yeah, I mean, I guess all that's like a cop out for saying I think the internet created more value, but I don't necessarily think the AI move is done or anything.
Yeah, I feel like we're in maybe like a stalled area a bit where like it's incredible, but I think from like a company's ROI perspective, like we had the Uber COO come out and say like they're not seeing bottom line impacts from using AI within the organization. I think there's still like the limiting factor of human creativity to a degree. Like, okay, like you have access to this, but like, what are you going to be able to do with it? And how is it going to overall impact the business? And yes, you can do daily tasks with fewer people, fewer resources. That's a cost savings, but are you able to unlock like the next level? And I do think we get there, but perhaps not yet. And I could see like the pullback on token spend coming in the near future, perhaps tied to that as well. But so like longer term, mega bull, near term, cautious, I guess, is kind of my read on it. Just from kind of where model growth is kind of come out this summer. Then you also had last week, Dario's calling on everyone to pause AI growth. I feel like that headline kind of jumped under or went under the radar. I don't know if it's because it came out on a Friday.
Lose Tyler there?
I thought we lost me, but I think it was Tyler.
Yeah, and the Wall Street Journal's killing him.
All right.
Oh, he's back.
We closed the article, but basically Anthropic urges global pause in AI development, flags self-improvement risk. Is the headline. That was published in the Wall Street Journal last week. So Dario's kind of coming out and citing the warning. I think that's another kind of overhang for the near future as well. So just more caution, I think is kind of how I'm, from a market's perspective, is kind of how I'm approaching.
Also just got like super nervous from the move we had in April that felt like almost unhealthy. We just fully went up only from like April until June? Start of June. Mm-hmm. We had a couple red days, but like we barely had any pullbacks. And the last couple of days are the first like real pullback we've had on this entire move. It feels like a healthy pullback. Like I get nervous when I look and it's just like every day we're up 0.5% for 2 months.
Yeah. But some stocks were up like 20, like some of these stocks have run hundreds of percent or more, thousands of percent, like a SanDisk of like certain memory names. The market definitely has been euphoric, especially if you're, along the right names. I mean, it's been insane. And I feel like there's definitely like if you have a lot of exposure and which a lot of like the super wealthy do to SpaceX as an example, you want the markets to be at highs here. So I feel like there's just been kind of a big circle jerk to keep everything in a good place.
Yeah, we're actually down a lot today too. I didn't realize
people are jittery about this SpaceX IPO for sure. I mean, we're in our bubble. Think if you're in the bubble of I don't know if you guys seen some of the stuff in out of Monaco, but think if you're in the bubble of these wealthy, really truly generational wealth, and you all have SpaceX and you're all getting, huge amounts of cash, or even like the next segment down, people have $50-100 million, but they're, selling these shares and getting carry and markup. Like, so many people are making just like ungodly amounts of money on this. And it's been so fast. Elon's a genius. I don't know. I do think that there's other points, and Tyler, you brought up a couple other ones. I really think the way that SpaceX will sell out is a huge part of it, just the distribution of shares. But even now, you're seeing people on like Twitter and Instagram like saying, "Oh, I got SpaceX allocation on Robinhood." Like, it's going to be really. Just feels like retail is going to be buying the top here from some of these people. I don't know.
It does.
Talk me out of it, because I'm like more and more convinced today, and it's easy to think that way when the markets are going down. But I've had conviction around this kind of thesis.
Yeah, part of the way it's structured still just makes me think it's gonna squeeze up before it goes down. But I do think it will go down, like maybe 30 to 50%, which will be nasty if you bought the IPO. But then I think there will be a level where it becomes an incredible buy, and I'll want to buy a good chunk. Because I do think on a long-term time horizon, it could very well be the top company, most valuable company we have.
For sure.
But if we're on Mars, colonizing Mars, yeah, it definitely is.
Right. And I think there might be people who are just okay with that, right? Like maybe Joe Retail's fine stomaching 3, 6, 9 months of volatility for a decade-long investment. So I think that's a potential counter. But I mean, if you're looking to really try to find entries, it's hard to think the IPO is going to be your best entry day. How do you profit from space? Well, there's a lot of ways. For one, it's cheaper to manufacture up there once you get the infrastructure in place. You've got satellite internet that's going to be running across. He's also building with the new power facility that's going to have more power than like the entire U.S. grid by like a factor of 2x, I think. So he's got a lot moving in the near future. So the bull case will be out there on a longer term time horizon, I think, for sure.
We should talk about SpaceX as a business, because I think that's another way to like kind of poke holes in this. I don't know. Have you guys done a decent bit of research on like the actual business itself?
I may not be as conversational as you.
Well, yeah, sure. So like the best part of their business is Starlink, which I'm sure you guys have used the product. It's unbelievable. And I think that's just an incredible like product that should only get bigger. It's so good. It's blazing fast, and there's a huge TAM there. So I think they'll continue to win on satellites and everything else. And that's a huge part of it. So broadly from 2025, I mean, they're doing somewhere in the range of like $20 to $40 billion, depending on kind of the growth. We'll see when the numbers come out. But they rely heavily on Starlink as like the main way to monetize kind of the rocket and satellite business that they have. But now they're really getting into the power game, which you alluded to. And there have been some interesting deals done, especially with Anthropic. So that's another reason to be bullish, would just be their position there. But they've also tied things like XAI to the asset, which XAI is way behind Claude and OpenAI, especially from a revenue. I mean, they're just burning tons of cash. So that's another reason that it's just like the circle jerk thing. Like, of course, they attach XAI. Those shareholders got really fortunate to be tied to SpaceX. But yeah, it's trading at a crazy multiple across the board. It does have some really good components. We'll see if they could do the orbital compute. That would be, a gargantuan business. And like really everyone's, raising the bottleneck right now is power. So if they do solve that, obviously that's a big thing. And I think a big part of kind of the value now, which Elon's the king of, is selling the narrative, and the narrative accruing like a massive market cap. I mean, that happened with Tesla. It's definitely happening here. And he's really good at pushing the narrative of power in space. So that'd be another reason to be bullish. But
imagine the scenario where like data center pushback continues to come to a head in the US, and Elon can say, "Oh, we can buy step regulations."
Yeah,
put them in space.
Data centers in orbit. If he's able to pull that off.
Just for context, too, just as another number, at one point it looked like they're going to trade at like 100 times revenue. for the business. It's probably going to be in like the 90s, and we'll see. Like, we'll see how it goes. But I mean, there is, if you're just looking at it, this is a big growth promise. Like, you're betting on a promise here, versus the economics of the business currently. So,
but they are inking new revenue deals into this, right? So like the Anthropic deal that you mentioned, it's like, I think, is Google also paying them like $1 billion a month? I'd have to go back through, but I feel like I've seen a couple big deals announced.
The Anthropic one in particular makes a ton of sense because they both hate Elon, and all the Anthropic team hate Sam. So that's a really smart deal. That's accretive to both companies. And there's all the circular spend that's going on in AI, which will help prop it up too. So yeah, the business itself is super intriguing. Long term, I'm really bullish. Love Elon. I think, obviously you have FOMO just watching all these people have like super low cost basis on SpaceX, but I'm interested in owning it, and I'll own it indirectly through some indexes at some point in time. So I hope it does well. It's great for humanity. It's a big story. And when you're talking about this amount of money, I kind of just keep going back to like this feels like a time to be cautious. So, but easily could be wrong, been wrong many times, and timing the market's very, very hard. But a lot of people are kind of thinking that this could be a top. So who knows?
Feels like a fine time to take a breather, to take some profits. And even if you're wrong and things continue to grind up, I mean, there will be another entry down the road. Is, I think, kind of where I'm overall at on this. Coming back to Mythos, I do feel like, we've talked about like the bearish crypto case. I think there's also a bullish crypto case out there that Mythos is released for a few months, and maybe we have a handful of minor exploits, but no major exploits. And it appears to be more hardened and more secure than perhaps folks have thought. Right? I think that's been a drag on DeFi. It's been a drag on ETH, but that turns into perhaps that narrative flips if the models are out in the wild and nothing gets majorly exploited over the next few months. So it's going to be kind of hold your breath and pray time period here. But I think if we get out on the other side of it, it perhaps does turn into a part of the bull case. And then if the AI trade starts to cool off, unwind, and the stocks aren't going gangbusters, I think the rotation to assets that are 50% off highs becomes a little more attractive. Getting breaking news, apparently Iran shot down the U.S. helicopter market, took another leg lower. So that's another leg of volatility.
I was wondering how it was going down more. I was just watching.
Yeah, and I haven't been super plugged in on prices, but that one will that's not going to be great. As Trump's been saying, a deal is going to be done any day now. I'm sure him and Elon have the handshake agreement to get this deal done by Friday. Into the SpaceX IPO. We'll see if they're able to pull that off or not. Well, I want to talk Zeke, because we talked a little bit about this in the group chat. Of course, one of the bigger crypto stories of the past week, Zeke was exploited is not the correct word. That the team confirmed an exploit vector that was in the protocol and had been there for 4 years. They found it by hiring Taylor Hornby, a security researcher who used Claude Opus 4.8, and he was able to find it within like a day. He exploited it in a test environment. Didn't run the code in production, but basically what he found is you were able to mint unlimited counterfeit Zeke if you wanted. And the way that the privacy pools work on Zcash, no one would have known for sure if a bad actor had actually done this or not. So this led to a pretty nasty sell-off. Zeke was trading around 600 plus, went all the way down to 250, has since rebounded to 440 or so. The latest out of the team, they are moving forward with this new pool structure. It's going to have a turnstile accounting mechanism. Long story short, they will be able to mathematically prove if it was exploited or not. they're going to have that proven before the pool goes live, which is targeting July. So within the next few weeks, it seems like we will likely have an answer of whether or not at least it was exploited or not. But now folks are talking about how this has happened in the past with Zcash, and a feature of privacy is that like this is actually a trade-off of total privacy, that you can't have this kind of accounting. Diesel, I'll toss it to you. I guess, do you think it was exploited / or in part B, does this impact the fundamental trade?
It doesn't. I mean, unless you think it was exploited over the multi-year bear market where price just didn't, move at all. I think it's unlikely that it was at this point. I don't know. Like if I had to bet and you gave me 50-50 odds, I would take no. I kind of think we saw that initial big panic wave. Everything dumped. All the leverage got kind of flushed. And then I think Zuko, one of the founders of Zcash, put out like a good blog post a couple of days ago talking like basically taking responsibility and saying what they're going to do. And you outlined everything with the update going in July. But I think it's tough because like I think public confidence in it is cooked, and I don't know how that sentiment turns around if just like price goes up, sentiment goes. Like I'm not looking for a long here at 440. I don't want to make it sound like that. But I mean, I don't think it was exploited. I think if it was exploited, it was them selling the tokens at like what, $50 for 3 years. But I don't think, I don't know. Like my gut just says no. Like I just looked at the chart again. I mean, we spent from August like 2022 to September 2025 between 20 and $50 for the most part. Like, could they have been exploiting it there and selling it? Maybe, but I don't think so. If they were, they did a very good job at evenly distributing it. I will say that. Like it was very smart. I feel like most of the time when something's exploited, they try to max extract ASAP. So if this was exploited, you're saying the person or the group who did it was like actually smarter than the average exploiter, which is possible. It's definitely possible. I just don't think it's as likely as the inverse.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Like, well, I do not think it was exploited. I think there would be more obvious signs that it was. But I think that the real bear case from here isn't just that it was exploited. It's just that lack of trust in.
Okay, even if you're sitting on all these tokens and it's exploited, wouldn't you have just nuked the living shit out of it this weekend? Like you would have been like, "Oh, time's up. I'm out. Boom,
yeah, it's over." Right?
Like time's up. Red button. Like send it to 0. Like you would have did that this week. I think. Like I don't know.
The counter would be, I guess, or a counter would be if you think there are other exploit vectors that you could continue to. Well, no, but even that's going to get closed with this new upgrade. So yeah, you're right. I think that was your final chance.
Yeah, so like maybe now if you're like long-term bullish on it and happy at this price, you like start a little bag. But before this recent run, I mean, we were sitting at like 200. So we're still up over double of kind of where we were in March. Oh, that says 12% chance. Yeah, that's
play market's at 12%, but it's only got, for whatever reason, like no one's playing this market. It's only got 18K in volume. So yeah, the order book's very thin. But Peter, curious for your reaction. I know we've talked about this trade a good amount on the show. Like you may have a view on this, but do you think Zcash can come back from this?
I don't have a strong view on that necessarily. I definitely wanted exposure to privacy in the past, especially as like a hedge to Bitcoin. I've been long Zcash at different points in time, shorted the news, should have closed the position entirely. Still, I'm trying to use crypto basically as I would rather be like long the market, short something like Zcash as like a pair trade as an example, than just selling certain things. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I definitely think it's going to be hard for a lot of things to catch an, kind of like a big narrative bid unless the overall market goes up. So we'll see. It bounced obviously off all the initial FUD, but I don't know if Zcash is going to be the privacy winner. How's Monero done recently? That was something I was going to look at.
It was dumping with Zcash on the news that Zcash was exploited. I was watching Monero.
Yeah, that was a weird one to me.
It's like, was there panic that just privacy in general was exploited? Was there the Mythos panic of like, oh, well, if Zcash is exploited, Monero is? Like, I think Monero went down $70 that day.
Like Monero, long Monero, short Zcash as a trade. That's something that I would intuitively think makes some sense, but maybe that's wrong and just misreading the narrative. And still, the network effect that Zcash has had is like that was the for whatever reason that was the clear winner before. I don't know.
The privacy trade's tough.
It's tough.
The people who actually want privacy aren't going to show the privacy trade, and then the people who want to push the narrative push Zcash, and I don't know. It
seems like the most criminals are using Monero. At least that was what I heard.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's still true, but that shows that the product's working.
But my counter to that though would be like there are like non-criminals have use cases for privacy as well.
Well, of course.
So
but if I want to trust a privacy solution, wouldn't I trust the solution that the criminals use more than the solution the criminals don't use?
That's my thesis.
Like if I care about my own privacy, irregardless if I'm doing crime, I am going to go where the criminals are going because they have a higher degree of personal risk involved with their activities, and they're choosing to take that risk with Monero.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but that's
that's my gut read on it. I also don't know if that's true. If you're a criminal using Zcash, please anonymously DM me from a burner and let me know.
It's tough. So Near had the privacy aspect of its trade as well. It took a hit, went from 3 to 2. It seems like there's a growing cohort of near bulls out there. Have either of you traded this one?
I haven't. After that move from like $1.50 to $2.50, I added it to the top of my list with like the VVV and Zcash of the world, but I haven't traded it.
By the way,
go ahead.
While we've been recording, like a U.S. helicopter was shot down.
Oh, yeah, that's what one just said.
Yeah, that's
in Iran.
Yeah,
yeah, that's why
we got a lot of cross currents here. Then that's why, like, it's crazy to me that the market's just still like, I don't know. My spidey senses are tingling big time, and it's just hard because I generally want to have a long bias. It's really, really hard to be in and out of the market. But it does. I don't know. At times there are good moments where, there are good moments basically to protect capital, especially if you have alternatives. Prediction markets are really interesting, which we could talk about maybe next week. But there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, I do want to have a long conversation. I'm very interested in Kalshi perps and how big of if that'll be a challenger to the Hyperliquid lit or not. In your view on that, is because their growth is tremendous. Can't argue with that. Just quickly, the pilots are safe in the tech, so that is good.
Trump says we're going to respond.
Yeah, It feels like he has not wanted to really break the ceasefire on the U.S. side, but this one seems like it's strong enough that he will. How's oil trading on the back of this? It's still down, 86.90. Wow. I guess I would have expected that to spike up. This has been a tricky market to predict.
That's why I don't trade oil, man. Every time I think oil might do something, it just does what I don't think it'll do.
So now we have Mythos releasing. We have Iran war escalation. SpaceX IPO.
One thing on oil that is evergreen and just generally that can be applied for all sorts of trading is you got to know what your edge is. And I imagine almost everyone, including myself, doesn't have an edge because you're competing against people who have different information than you. And if you're going to trade oil, there's a ton of people doing it professionally. So and that seems like a low, very efficient market where the people who are winning have informational edge. So if you're just going to go in and punt based on a headline, there's probably a better place to do it.
You're opening up Hyperliquid and just being like, I got a feeling.
As someone who has traded oil, mostly based on Polymarket alerts, but yeah, maybe if you have some, like, that's your edge, is like you think you got the information faster than the market. That maybe that's something that you could play for a really short-term trade, but it's almost impossible to have a sustained edge in these markets given your competition.
You've got the research analysts sitting on the side straight to Hormuz, counting the tankers going by.
He's floating in the water with the Chinese guy.
I want to talk the peptide trade at some point as well. I don't know if we're going to have enough time. Deez and I were chatting in the studio before the show. He was kicking himself out about not being
Lilly.
No Lilly trade.
Lilly's a great company,
which does feel like one. Like this is going to be at $2 trillion in a year or two. I don't know what the path to that looks like, but it does probably double. With Retatrutide coming out, and like the way they're trying to get it reclassified so that their competition can't even produce it, they're going to have a nice little edge on that. HIMS has been grinding back up a little bit, but it sold off today as well. Perhaps other sectors of that trade. I want to get into that, but Deez, have you been trading much in the past week? And we always like to cover a little bit about what we're doing in the market.
Yeah, I haven't been doing too much, honestly. I've been, let's see. I traded a couple of those TCG tokens we talked about last week. Only one of which I think is up since we talked about it last week. The other ones are mostly down. I keep coming back to cards. Like, do I want to buy this cards dip or not?
Mm-hmm.
I understand the thesis behind, hey, they have all this revenue. They're plowing it back into inventory. It makes their products more interesting. People are building on top of them. I don't want to use the HIP 3 parallel that I see people throwing around, because I think when we just start comping everything to Hyperliquid, it gets a little murky. But I do think in general, this thesis probably isn't going anywhere for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. So that's one on my short list of things to maybe buy, but it's still at 40. It's like basically 50 million, which is a little high when it was under 10 in April still. So maybe waiting for a bigger dip on that, but I would buy it. Like if we get under 40, somewhere in the mid to low 30s, I'd probably take a little position in that. Other than that, just buying, the random Pokemon cards. Haven't been selling any, just randomly buying them. So nothing crazy.
That market just keeps going up and to the right.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it last week, but I did sell some hype. I sold 7% of what we had just to keep selling it. I got out at $71, so super happy with that. And nice. I rolled a small amount of it into Kinetic, which is fucking stupid. I was like, oh, this is hype beta, so let me this is cheap. I was looking at what Jito and Lido were at and last cycles, and was like, yeah, this Kinetic shit's too cheap. Let me grab some of that. So I'm down 25% on that buy. That's nice. I'm still holding it, but that's about all I've done. I don't think I want to buy the VVV dip. When I look at the daily chart, it just kind of looks like it's going to roll over to me. Didn't buy the near dip we talked about. Didn't buy Zcash. That's been about it.
Appreciate you taking us through that. Similarly, I haven't really made a whole lot of on-chain moves. I've been adding to my serve.
I think my wealth manager sold a couple stocks in my portfolio last week, which looks like it was a good call, because I was looking at my portfolio and I was like, oh, we have more bonds than I remember. And then it's like, okay, not too mad at that. I got tax shit anyway. So I guess I made that trade, even though I didn't make that trade.
Shout out to your investment advisor.
Yeah,
a little skittish about the SpaceX IPO coming.
Yeah, maybe. I got a call with them in a couple of weeks, so I'll see what's going on.
Andy, our friend Andy 8052 Monster, seems like they've been doing really well.
They've been crushing it. Yeah, they've been hitting new all-time highs on their volume. I feel like I'm super biased, but it's the only thing outside of Euphoria that has any, I feel like, attention on my timeline on Mega ETH. So that's cool to see too.
Yeah, I don't even think about it as a Mega ETH protocol. I just think
no, I don't think anyone does, which is good.
Oh,
I think that's how you know you're building something semi-successful, is when people don't tie it to the chain it's on.
And I think there, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a points program.
Yeah, so I don't know what I can and can't say, but essentially, yeah, there's a leaderboard program, and you can assume with that leaderboard, like any other leaderboard assumption you've ever made in your life, that there is something in the future. But yeah, they have a full leaderboard.
I do think now is the time for those who, if you're still here, logging in every day and clicking buttons, like looking for stronger protocols in hot sectors that have leaderboards. It's probably a good use of your time.
And ever since Blast, I just caveat it with like, don't farm anything just for the sake of farming it. Like I genuinely like getting these cards and redeeming them. I've done like 60K worth of volume or something on there. I'm not even high on the leaderboard. But just like, you know, don't gamble more than you can afford to lose to get leaderboard points that might not give you future value.
I just got a message of Perilous, who's a big NFT art collector. I'm going to chat with him. He's been playing around on Monster and he loves it, but shocker, he's been running really good. So he's up on his pack rips.
I think the #1 guy is actually up. The guy with like 1.2 million points.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's rare for like a gacha platform where the guy with the most volume is net up.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue to monitor the gacha and Pokemon meta. It looks like it's not going.
And I will say too, there's good dashboards that you can look at that monitor all the EV of like the different gacha platforms. So if you want to compare Monster to BZ to Collector Crypto to whatever, you can look at these dashboards and they'll tell you like the gross EV of them and you can sort it. And I think Andy's is still the high, or it's like it's the most plus EV. It's like -3% or something last I checked. So that's another reason they're so successful lately, is because people are starting to actually care about the odds and the EV. Yeah.
It was a sharp move by him. We'll go check that one out if you're interested. First, I think that covers our topics for today. We went around the horn well. I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. I want to thank Deez and Peter both for joining. Good to have you back. Peter, we will be back next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. We're still kind of trying to figure out what long-term, if we want to keep this time slot or maybe move to Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. But we will be back next week. Until then, go make it a great week. Goodbye.
Mythos is live. Good.